Well, I have just
Meeting is
pressed.
being recorded, yes.
I have just pressed
I just-
record, and so we'll officially and formally welcome all of you. You will soon know for sure, if you've just arrived, that we'll be hearing an admission bell every time a friend of ours have arrived. And so you can just use this bell as an opportunity to bow to yet another Sangha member who has joined our ranks of those who are present. So, yeah, I was thinking a few minutes before logging on and kind of just reflecting back on this experience of teaching on Zoom. And I would say that there's a comfort being gained, right? There's a familiarity. I'm teaching quite a bit on Zoom and sometimes quite large groups. But I've also observed that over the last year, there has been somewhat of a loss of connection, or at least there has to be a greater intention to connect in order to feel, right, what would be so obvious and natural if we were all sitting in the same room together. I've also noticed that with Zoom, especially when the video cameras are off, that I go into a more of a performative quality, right? I've got my ring light on, I'm being recorded. It's like kind of lights, camera, action, meditation guide. Plus, I've been doing this for the Chopra Center, and I think that that there's a lot of that involved. They even request that I wear makeup. So in order to kind of address, yeah, what way? To address this kind of potential lack of disconnect, I thought we'd do an experiment. But I want to frame this first, excuse me, because I just shared my experience as kind of the teacher on Zoom, but I also want to give the common humanity experience of a participant on Zoom. So when I do show up to the Saturday Sangha, I actually quite enjoy the anonymity of having my video off. For one, just logistically, I sit on the couch that is not in front of my computer, so you wouldn't see me anyways. It's also nice to not have to, do makeup and, hair and put on a shirt and be presentable in some way, right? You get to just be, nothing required. You don't have to show up for anyone. This is you time. And so I really love that space of kind of the anonymous participant. But to just play with this a little bit, I'd like to do an experiment where if it is possible, right, if you're in a place where you're able to just for a few minutes share your video and sit in front of it and be with each other's image, I'm gonna suggest that we do that. So I will give a minute. There's something kind of special about an open-eyed kind of connection meditation in this way, because it would be awkward if we were just sitting in a circle, say at Soul of Yoga, and just someone came up and just kind of like stared at you, right? You'd feel a little weird, but like we can actually just kind of check each other out with this compassionate, kind gaze. And so this meditation is that. Let's just actually come into silence for a moment as your eyes cruise around with kind of a friendly attention and just taking each other in. This group who feels a sense of commitment toward each other. You don't even have to see each other. You just show up for yourselves, for each other, for Diana, and for all the people you practice for every single Saturday, or many of them at least, with this crew. And just notice whatever kind of thoughts or feelings about this practice. Notice what comes up, whether it be a sense of connection or discomfort, or anything in between. And practice this like you would any meditation. Feel your breath, feel your body sitting, and open to seeing. You can even play with a sense of sight. You can toggle your attention to become aware of whatever's behind your computer. Right? You can still be staring right at your computer, but you can be aware of background. And then you can be aware of the frame of the computer, and then the screen, and then the individual thumbnails. You can be aware of textures and shapes, objects and colors. But you can also feel your own body as you're doing this. And so for those of you who just logged on, we're cultivating an intentional friendliness, an intentional connection to the extent that it's available over Zoom, and just noticing what that is. And now if you're willing, let's play another game where you can scroll over your own thumbnail and press the 3 dots and then pin to first screen. And pin yourself to first screen. And then see if you can gaze with the same intentional sense of connection and friendliness at your own image. Noticing whatever comes up and practicing the way you've been trained to practice. Non-judgmental, open and accepting. And now go ahead and you can unpin your screen, bringing it back into the gallery view or teacher view or whatever it is you want. And in fact, if you'd like, you can go ahead and turn your video off again. You can go back to the anonymity. We're going to close our eyes anyways. So thank you. And with eyes closed, continue to bring that felt sense of connection, intended friendliness, but now not to your own image, but now to the experience that is this moment, as if you were the awareness in which everything arises. And so meeting that self with friendliness, connecting to the greater you that is this moment. In a moment, we'll go into a mostly silent sitting, but I wanted to share with you a poem. It's a longer poem by David Whyte, and it's called Friendship. And there's something, if you've heard David Whyte, there's something about the way he reads his own poetry that can't quite be reproduced. So I'm going to share the audio of David Whyte, reading the poem titled Friendship. And you can treat this as part of the practice, just taking in whatever parts kind of land on you and in your heart and letting go of the parts that don't. Maybe we will not. It is asking for a password to share computer screen.
We can see the screen.
Okay, good.
YouTube.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
You have to turn it up.
Friendship not only helps us to see ourselves through another's eyes, but can be sustained over the years only with someone who has repeatedly forgiven us for our trespasses, as we must find it in ourselves to forgive them in turn. A friend knows our difficulties and shadows and remains in sight. A companion to our vulnerabilities more than our triumphs, when we are under the strange illusion that we do not need them. A friend knows our difficulties and shadows and remains in sight. A companion to our vulnerabilities more than our triumphs, when we are under the strange illusion that we do not need them. An undercurrent of real friendship is a blessing exactly because its elemental form is rediscovered again and again through understanding and mercy. All friendships of any length are based on a continued mutual forgiveness. Without tolerance and mercy, all friendships die. Without tolerance and mercy, all friendships die. In the course of the years, a close friendship will always reveal the shadow in the other as much as ourselves. To remain friends, we must know the other and their difficulties and even their sins, and encourage the best in them, not through critique, but through addressing the better part of them, the leading creative edge of their incarnation, thus subtly discouraging what makes them smaller, less generous, less of themselves. Friendship is the great hidden transmuter of all relationships. It can transform a troubled marriage, make honorable a professional rivalry, make sense of heartbreak and unrequited love, and become the newly discovered ground for a mature parent-child relationship. The dynamic of friendship is almost always underestimated as a constant force in human life. A diminishing circle of friends is the first terrible diagnostic of a life in deep trouble, of overwork, of too much emphasis on a professional identity, of forgetting who will be there when our armored personalities run into the inevitable natural disasters and vulnerabilities found in even the most ordinary existence. Friendship transcends disappearance. An enduring friendship goes on after death. The exchange only transmuted by absence, the relationship advancing and maturing in a silent, internal conversational way, even after one half of the bond has passed on. But no matter the medicinal virtues of being a true friend or sustaining a long, close relationship with another, the ultimate touchstone of friendship is not improvement, neither of the self nor of the other. The ultimate touchstone of friendship is witness. The privilege of having been seen by someone and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them, and sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on a journey impossible to accomplish alone. No matter the medicinal virtues of being a true friend or sustaining a long, close relationship with another, the ultimate touchstone of friendship is not improvement, neither of the self nor of the other. The ultimate touchstone of friendship is witness. The privilege of having been seen by someone and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them, and sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on a journey impossible to accomplish alone.
So letting whatever part of that you were able to hear sink in. And letting it go. Opening up to this new moment. Continuing with the intention to bring this sense of unconditional friendliness to whatever arises in your experience. And so if you're looking for somewhere to rest your attention, begin with whatever's most obvious. It's often somewhere in the body. Whatever sensation makes itself known. Perhaps the feet or the hips, maybe the hands, or the movement of the breath through the torso. And then see if you can just rest in that sensation, letting the experience of it be enough. Reminding yourself that in this moment, there's no place to get. There's nothing to do right. Nothing to accomplish. No one to impress. There's nowhere else you need to be. And since there's nothing to do, what are you to do? Nothing. Notice what happens when you do nothing. Notice this moment in the absence of all volition, all intention. And again, if you need stability, you can always come back with intention to say the breath or the body. But ultimately, this is a practice of being present to whatever the moment is as it reveals itself one moment at a time. And so although we'll be practicing together in silence now, you can always tap back into that felt sense of connection. Although we are silent, we are not alone. I will ring a bell when the practice is complete. in the last few minutes of the practice, I'll invite you to gather your attention from wherever it is in this moment and to bring it right there into the heart, actually feeling the sensations of the heart beating, or sensations in the chest, maybe even just clothing touching the skin of chest. Breathing in as if you were breathing into the heart and breathing out as if you could breathe out from the heart. This Sangha back in 2012 had a practice of saying out loud the names of the people we practice for. And so I won't bother the stillness to have you come off of mute, but you might just whisper to yourself and anyone in whisper distance the names of the people you practice for, your loved ones, people in your life who are suffering, your friends. And so as you allow the images of loved ones to come to mind, perhaps you'll just whisper their name. Letting go of the naming and returning to the breathing. May we dedicate the benefits and the merits of this meditation practice and all practice to those who we love and to those who the people we love, and to all the things that are most important to us and all the goodness that is this world. May our practice create a karmic ripple that ripples and ripples and ripples. May it be so. Taking your time to move the body, have a sip of water. And for those of you who are ready to transition into your Saturday, thank you for sharing this practice with us. I realize that we will have a beep upon the exit of each participant, and so I probably nice to do it all at once if you know that you need to be exiting in the next minute or two. And those of you who want to stay and discuss friendship and connection for a few more minutes, that I invite you to do that. So I have been kind of present to this idea of friendship and connection recently And I think a lot of people are kind of reconsidering connection and friendship in that more and more people are now vaccinated, right? I'm now fully vaccinated and I'm starting to get invitations to do things. And right, there's this realization, excuse me, and it didn't happen until recently, as I'm reflecting on this last year, that like for many of us, there's been a way of relating to others as if they're a potential threat, a carrier of a virus, someone to stay a distance from, right? And so some of us have taken that on more literally than others. I was talking to my brother, and he very much is still kind of like, people are dangerous. And fair. But I'm noticing for myself just this sense of reevaluation, really not seeing people as dangerous. That wasn't ever that wasn't my trip. But I am noticing that the introvert in me, the one who is a hermit, the one who can find easy sustenance in my own presence and the small community that was my COVID tribe, and then kind of just being curious around like, well, what do I want to expand into? What next? How am I reevaluating? Who is important to let back in? And how does this kind of reintegration into the world of physical connection look like? And so I just open that up as I don't have any answers. It's more of just an ongoing inquiry that I feel like I'm having and others are probably also having. And so I'm just curious what has come up for you, either in this meditation around connection and friendship or in your own lives about the same topic.
Pete, I can tell you at the hospital, we've had a real flux in that feeling of friendship. For over a year, we've not had allowed visitors into the hospital because they were, potential carriers of COVID. And because we're in the orange tier, we've let up the visiting restrictions. And so we're seeing visitors now from 11 until 8 and only 2 at the bedside. But, for my job, it's really important for families to be in. But I also have this fear that, are we opening up too soon? Is this going to cause a new surge? Or so it's real tension. But when we were listening to David Whyte, the one thing that what really resonated for me was the friendship that you connect with people in mere moments, right? I sometimes have a relationship with a family or a patient for an hour. So to say that that's a friendship was really was touching for me. Brought home. I'd like to listen to that again.
I can send the link. Or you could even just Google YouTube.
Yeah, I Googled
friendship.
it already. I found it.
Yeah, it's accessible. Yeah, it's like, it reminds me as you say that, Carrie, of, giving the loving kindness or metta practice to the person who's easy to love, and then the neighbor or the neutral person, and that we label the neutral person as a neutral, like kind of just someone who exists, but that really there is a friendship, right? There is some relationship with that brief interaction, or there at least can be. Thank you.
Hey, Pete.
I have to.
Oh, go ahead, Dennis.
Well, okay. Well, Carrie brought up something from me that really resonates, is that when I was recovering from my ablation down at Scripps Memorial, and I was in the recovery room, and the nurses at the nurses station were all really chatty, and there was no hard doors in the recovery room. It's just screens. So I could hear all the conversations and the nurses out there and the doctors making jokes with the nurses. And I was trying to, kind of like be at peace and like recover. And so I talked to the nurse that came in, and I said, "Whoo, think they could keep it down?" She says, "Well, I'll ask them." And then this morning I realized, wow, they really need to have a friend. And so that really rang true with me this morning. So thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Dennis, for those shares. Yeah, thanks, Pete, for starting off the morning with that David Whyte poem. That's a really beautiful one. It'd been a minute since I heard it, and it spoke to me in a different way than it has in the past. There was a line in particular, which I can't recall the specifics of, but I'll just paraphrase. It had something to do with, as we get older, our circle of friends diminishes with the energetic emphasis on other priorities, so-called priorities, and just how I don't know, kind of what a tragedy that can be. And so I have noticed with families, with raising a family, being a full-time student for the last 5 years, et cetera, that I haven't been putting the energy into sustenance of friendships. And I had a conversation with a friend recently about that. And she said it's the same thing. She's like, dude, you just try. You just try to keep them alive. So, throughout this COVID time, I've reconnected with 4 or 5 people that I hadn't spoken to in anywhere between 10 and 20 years, and revived, all 5 of those friendships. And, they're scattered all over the country, New York, Chicago, Vancouver, BC. But, that distance kind of served as part of the, I don't know, that physical distance served as part of the emotional and psychic distance. But with a little bit of, let's see, with a little bit of effort, it's been a trip. It's wild how you just pick up right where you left off, because really the connection that was forged is outside of time. It's not limited by time. So you're just putting your heart back into, and maybe for anyone who's listening right now, who's in a similar condition, one of these people was someone who I actually had a falling out with, and who I kind of considered the closest thing that I have to, I don't want to say enemy, but there was some tension there, right? And yet when we picked back up, it was amazing. It was, we had both changed in such ways that we were able to reconnect in the way that we were when we first became friends. So I encourage others to kind of try the same, and if they're feeling isolated or lonesome, or even if not, just to broaden and widen that circle with the acknowledgement that we're all connected, really. So thanks.
Well said. Beautiful. And I look forward to connecting with you on Tuesday.
Me too.
I kind of add something to this conversation here on friendship. I think it does take effort, as you're talking about, Anthony, and you have to, put that. There has to be an intention there, I guess, to put that effort in. And it's so important. But one of the other aspects, that I've noticed recently, because my brother was just here. I haven't seen my brother in probably almost a year and a half. And I've talked to him a lot and texted him and that kind of stuff. My brother has profound hearing loss, so it's not easy sometimes to talk to him even on the phone. But anyway, my brother was here personally and stayed in our house, and I got to hug him. And just realizing this need in me to want to have that physical touch with other people and be able to hug them and, be right there face to face. And I think that's been the hardest thing for me during this whole COVID is not to be able to have that. And I think as a Sangha, it's also been difficult, because here we are on this Zoom platform, which is limited in so many ways, it's better than nothing. And I really appreciate the fact that we've been able to do that. Hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get back to having an actual physical Sangha.
May it be so.
Yeah.
But yes, I definitely echo that desire. I mean, it's just such a natural human need for physical contact, right? We all know what happens to babies when they don't get touch. It's just, we're wired for it. I'm glad that you got that experience, Greg. So
I might share one other little thing that I know. This father who has 3 children, and basically he was the caregiver of the 3 children. And his wife decided that they needed to part ways. So they're going through a whole big court thing, and he really needs a friend to talk to. His name is Caleb, and so I've known them because I used to do tennis with the kids when they were small, and now they're older. And he's going through all this, and he was, going to school and trying to pick himself up and graduate while taking care of the kids. And she was always working full time. So now they're having to part ways, and it's good for me just to listen to what he has to say and try to be at peace with what is.
reminds me of the line in the poem that said something about friendship is not about improvement, it's about bearing witness to one another. Yeah. Is there anything else that would like to be added? Okay, this feels complete. Thank you for your connection. Thank you for the friendship that is this Sangha with the shared commitment to practice and each other. Take good care. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.